I'm sure not many of you understand exactly what a Swami is, so I thought I'd take a moment to speak to that. Swami means master of one's self. And it is a title, it comes out of a title, it's a title that comes out of a tradition which is based in India and really first came forth in the 8th century under the influence of a very important non-dualistic teacher named Shankara, who went all over India revitalizing, sort of reinvigorating the teachings of the Vedas and particularly the Upanishads, which was the sacred scripture of South Asia. A Swami is not a religious figure. And in fact, the sacred literature of, in my opinion, the sacred literature of South Asia, the Vedas and the Upanishads, the Aranyakas, and the Tantras are not religious literature. This is literature which was really, the basis for a very, very long-running conversation about what it means to be a complete human being. Because in this literature, there are gods that are mentioned, and those gods are considered in this literature to actually be real and to have form and capability. They're not particularly attached to the names because the names change as time passes. But the functions stay the same. But these gods, are not completely immortal. They had a beginning. They'll have an end. And they face many of the same issues that human beings face. So they're more like gods in the traditional sense that you might read in Greek literature or Roman literature. These gods ultimately exist to express the vibrancy and the vitality of the total unity that is the essence of life and the essence that each of us participates in always from our own core. And this literature was, anyway, put out, was written to sustain a discussion and to give people a basis for being reminded that life is not about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's not about career. It's not about making money. My description, the words that I used to characterize what these pieces of literature would suggest to us is the reason why we're here. I would say that these beautiful pieces of literature are reminding us that we are in this world to grow. And in fact, it's my own opinion that if you understand that, a tremendous amount of confusion immediately falls out of your life. But anyway, a Swami is somebody who has pursued this, used this technology of yoga, and pursued this goal, this quest to grow, and come to a place within themselves where they no longer have any personal needs to fulfill, and they have no longer any personal agendas to pursue, and they no longer have any of the conditioning that we accumulate in our family systems that have the function of limiting our perspective in some very persistent ways. And coming to that place, a Swami accepts there's an initiation. So I went through this initiation. I did it in India in 1978, and in 1978, I was sitting in India in Maharashtra in May, and it was about 118 out, and for 5 days we didn't sleep. We all day long we did rituals. And the rituals that we did were Shraddha rituals, which are rituals for the dead. I did 750 rituals in 5 days, which basically were paying my respects to my ancestors for the last, I don't know how many 100 years, but because, I kind of, in that heat, spaced out on how far back we started. But we did rituals all the way up to doing making the offerings for my own parents then, even though they were still living, because after this ritual was over, I wasn't going to be around to do those rituals for them later, and doing the rituals for myself. So a Swami then actually completes all of their worldly obligations, because in India, that Shraddha ritual is the last obligation. And having all of the obligations fulfilled and all the agendas finished, then the next thing is that the person throws away all their clothes, has all their hair cut off, gets an entirely new name, and the person that they were is considered to be dead. They take their astrology chart, which is like the story of their life, and tear it up and throw it away. And they put on these orange clothes. This orange cloth is the color of fire and the symbol of transformation. And basically what it means is that a person who puts on these clothes and takes this initiation has become wrapped in a funeral fire, and is no longer, thinks of themselves as a thing, a body and a person, but rather thinks of themselves as a process, a continually self-transforming process. That's what a Swami is. And then in the end of the ritual, which, my God, happened I think on the morning of the 6th day, we would not do rituals all the time. We sat outside, in the forest, covered with mosquitoes in Maharashtra and other crawly, kind of intimidating things. And we were only eating water and bananas. So by the end of the 5th night, I was pretty much hallucinating. But at that point, oh, and you know what was really nifty about this was, so May is the end of the dry season. And Ganeshpuri has a river that runs through it. But at the end of the dry season, there's very little water in it. But there is a village there. And so they had to wade us out into the middle of this river, which there's no flow in by now. It's just like there's a pond there, kind of. And it turns out that the river is also the primary sanitary system for the village. So, you know, we're kind of completely environmentally stressed out and walking out into this water at 4 o'clock in the morning, just at first light, and I'm feeling these things bouncing off my legs. These things. And I'm putting my feet down in stuff that squishes in between my toes, and it's really weird. I don't know why I'm telling you this. But it was really weird. And then we have to start sipping this water while while they're cutting off the last piece of our hair, and we're supposed to be sipping this water. I'm going. And at the very end, you turn and walk away to go leave the world and head for the mountains to live in a cave someplace far away from humanity. And the Shankaracharya who was there, who was, you know, sort of an important person in India, calls us back and says, don't go away. Humanity needs you. Stay and help people. And so Swamis are people who have renounced themselves, renounced their own life, renounced the world, but who linger in the world and associate with people, hopefully for a good reason. That's what a Swami is.